Thank you. So we are ready. So we will start our debate. You have 6 minutes to give us your affirmative constructive speech, and your time starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and honorable audience, I stand before you today to argue that all basic education institutions will be fully funded by the government for the sake of equity. It is imperative to recognize that education is a foundation for any progressing society, and that every child deserves an equal opportunity to access quality education. By fully funding of education institutions, we can bridge the gap between the privileged and the marginalized, thus ensuring a fair and just society for all. Equal access. Full government funding of basic education institutions ensure that all students, regardless of their social economic background, have equal access to quality education. By eliminating financial barriers, we can bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, providing equal opportunities for all. Eliminating of education disparities. In many countries, including Kenya, these are stark disparities between well-funded urban schools and under-resourced rural schools. While all basic education institutions are fully funded by the government, it creates a level playing field, empowering every child to receive an education of equal quality, regardless of their geographical location. Enhanced quality and standards. Government funding enables schools to improve infrastructure, hire qualified teachers, and provide necessary resources. When basic education institutions have adequate funding, they can maintain high standards of teaching and learning, ensuring that all students receive a quality education that prepares them for success. Financial relief for families. Education expenses can be a burden on families, particularly those living in poverty. Full government funding evaluates this financial strain, allowing parents to focus on their essential needs, such as healthcare and food security. This support not only benefits individuals' family, but also contributes to poverty reduction. Long-term economic impact. A well-funded education system has a positive impact on the economy. By providing quality education to all, we equip individuals with skills and knowledge essential for employment and economic growth. This, in turn, leads to increased productivity, reduced unemployment rates, and sustain economic development for the nation. Thank you.
We can have the cross-examination by the negative. You have 3 minutes and they start now.
Okay. So do you really understand the meaning do you understand the meaning of equity? Because all I hear you talking about is equality, and you are still affirming the position. I think you're really talking. Okay, do you really understand the meaning between the difference between equity and equality?
Yes.
And what is the meaning? Okay.
Fully funding of this basic education institution will ensure equality as well as equity.
Because there are people who are more advantaged than others. That cannot work in that way. The second question is, you've talked about relieving the parents from the burden of having to get school fees. Don't you think this is going to bring laziness and dependency among very many families, just like people started in Tanzania by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere and the Ujamaa?
No, some families try hard to earn a living so they cannot provide quality education for their children. By fully funding of this education institution, the children will get quality education for proper growth of the economy and the nation as well.
Okay, for the literacy level, we've talked about having funding all basic educators so that more people can get educated, right?
Yes.
If you've done it in that well, then you know by 2023, 82.6% of the Kenyan population is already literate. And the government, my question is that if you've done it in that well, then you know that 82.6% of the Kenyan population is already literate. Then, and what you're saying is that you're supposed to create more literate people. Let me bring your attention that this percentage has already been achieved because due to while the government is not still fully funding education. And let me bring your attention that the reason why, to answer that, why would we need more literacy level? Why do we need more money from the government so that the literacy can increase?
If we get more literate people in our nation, this will lead to more productivity and higher earning potential.
You need to stop the cross-examination. Time is up.
So take a break of 2 minutes. Then we'll have the negative constructive speaker.
Can you now hear me?
Yes.
Loudly?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I should start.
So we can start the negative constructive speech. You have 7 minutes.
It is said that the best way to create the future is actually nurturing the youth. This is exactly what EEBC is doing, the partnership of very many people and institutions like the Moi University. So thank you very much for everyone who has partnered to mentor the youth. What you're doing is actually shaping the future. Moving on swiftly, the resolution, all basic. I am here to negate the resolution that says all basic education institutions should be fully funded by the government for equity. Let me demystify this resolution. The meaning of basic education institutions, they're simply formal, non-formal, and informal public and private activities intended to meet the basic learning needs of people for nation. Being fully funded means having financial resources adequate to meet current retirement plan payments in the event of bankruptcy. Now, equity, as illustrated here, this is the meaning of equity. You see, not everyone is equal, but you have to distribute resources according to the strength of people. This, my friends, this is equality. When you are equally distributing resources, one person may suffer when one really doesn't need it. Thank you. My value is equity, my criterion, financial instability. My contention, first, financial burden on the Kenyan government. You see, this symbolizes our Kenyan government, and the water symbolizes the activities that it has to do, the amount of things that it has to do. As it is, the cup is filling, this is our country. But as time passes by, if we burden it too much, then it spills. Thank you. This is exactly what we are trying to do, overburdening our government.
As of 7th of July 2023, as reported by Royal Media Services, people were in the streets, not only in Nairobi, but the whole of the country, demonstrating about the burden that is on their shoulders. They're simply saying that it is too much, and they're demanding the government to lower the cost of living in this country. Now, I'll remind you of a phrase you've heard very many times, probably from your mother, my friend: money does not grow on trees. This money that should fund all basic education is supposed to come from somewhere. And one of the ways the government is going to get that money is by imposing more tax. And now let me bring it to your attention that it is not only going to be imposed to the great and rich in this country, but to the common man who is out there demonstrating about the high cost of living. It is already, the 3% housing is already a controversial thing. I do not think we want to impose more tax on them. The second way the government is going to do, it is going to reallocate money that has been set apart for specific sectors, say tourism, agriculture, trade, and the rest. Now, the very same person standing strong and affirming that the government is supposed to fully fund basic education, they're simply trying to say that that money is supposed to be reallocated. And the very same person will stand strong and demand more revenue to be generated from those sectors, whereas the funds that are supposed to be received by them, they have been reallocated. How are we really going to achieve this? To my second contention, delayed funding. The principals had a meeting and they complained that there are a lot, the fundings are really not enough for the high school. As we speak, even the last term capitation, it has not yet been given by the government. Now, how about we do this? We engage these non-governmental organizations, which are actually very good. A very good example is Safaricom, M-Pesa Foundation. They will really chip in instead of burdening the government with all these things that they're supposed to pay. Another thing is dependency on the government. You see, will you really have a reason to work when your child has school fees and you have money, you have food, probably living in the rural areas and you can easily access food? Will you really have the energy to work? Now, the reason why people work is because they have a reason to work. And if we give parents reason to work, like providing school fees for their children, then and only then will we be receiving more tax from the work they do. Remember Ujama, as Mzee Julius Nyerere tried to implement, it did not work, it was abandoned. Why? Because the dependency of because people were highly dependent on the government. This is simply what you're trying to say if you are affirming this resolution. And the fourth one, is on personal choices. The Constitution of Kenya simply says that everyone has the choice to free will. They can choose whatever they want. Why would you really want why would you want to make someone not take their child in a private institution when that is their choice? That is their choice, that is the Constitution. The Constitution must be followed, and that is on period. On my conclusion, I do not believe that the government should fully fund all basic education. It can cater for those people who are really struggling, but fully, that is the best way to devastate our economy further. So the government is not supposed to fully fund, and it's not supposed to fund all, not the basic and keywords, fully and all. That cannot happen. Lilian Rezi, code 012, representing this, the House Husband.
So we are going to have the cross-examination by the affirmative from Lamu. You have 3 minutes.
I would like to ask, is there evidence to support the claim that private institutions are better at maintaining independence and choosing approaches that best serve the students' needs?
Pardon?
Is there evidence to support the claim that private institutions are better at maintaining independence and choosing approaches that best serve their students' needs.
Yes, I will give you a very clear and elaborate example of Light Academy based in okay, it is a private institution, it's a school, and they are proving to do well. Why? Because some of these members who are studying in this private sector all over this country, they have an impact on in the society. That means that their dependency is actually working. Why? Because we have already seen it. I am a child who has been raised up and studied in a private school that is in primary school, and you can already see an impact. So I am a living example that their dependence is actually sufficient.
Does the M-Pesa funding fund does the M-Pesa Foundation fund every student in Kenya?
Okay, M-Pesa Foundation does not fund every child in Kenya, and this is just an example, a tip of the iceberg. Let me tell you something. 40%. This is statistics, my friend. 40% of students learning in private school private schools, they are being funded by non-governmental organizations. And I've not said that M-Pesa Foundation caters for every child in Kenya. What I'm saying is they can as well partner with the government to improve education in this country, rather than making the government fully fund every student in this country, putting in mind that we are currently in a debt. So how are we supposed to pay their school fees if we really do not have enough money to pay it?
If the 40% that you're talking about is being paid by M-Pesa, the 60%, who is supposed to fund it?
I'm saying this, not understood clearly. So 40% of students learning in private institutions, they are being sponsored by non-governmental organizations. And please, M-Pesa Foundation was just an example. So let's not really dwell so much on that. We have Wings to Fly by Equity Bank, but the rest of the 50%, then they are being catered for in the public schools. They are being catered for by the government in the public schools. A very clear example, living example, Lilian Murezi. I am currently studying in a public school. The government is helping me. So I am part of the 50% who has not been catered for by the 40% of other non-governmental organizations.
Okay, you say that Equity also funds students.
Yes.
But nowadays, Equity has stopped paying fees for the students. Students are being sent home because of fees, missing their classes and missing the topics that are being taught. But the government will fund the institution and pay the fees at the correct time.
I have an answer to that. May I answer? We are going to have a 2-minute break, and then we proceed to the affirmative rebuttal. A 2-minute break, and then we proceed to the affirmative rebuttal.
Let us girls. Yes. Let us girls. Order, please. So, welcome Lamu for the affirmative rebuttal.
You have 4 minutes for the affirmative rebuttal, Lamu. You can start now.
While the opposition might portray government-funded education as a financial burden, it must be emphasized that investing in education as an investment in our nation's future. The long-term benefits outweigh any short-term challenges. Moreover, while private institutions may offer quality education, the ultimate goal of equality cannot be achieved through access to education for those who can afford it. Thank you.
Okay, we will have the negative, rebuttal, and summary. You have 6 minutes and your time starts now.
My opponent has talked about enhancing quality standards in schools. We know of very many private schools, not one, not two. I can name very many, St. Andrew's Student Light Academy, Riara Springs, very many schools, which are not funded by the government, but they still enhanced standards in the schools. They have very good schools, very nice infrastructure. The teachers are doing on very well. So I do not really see, I don't think that was really necessary for you to say so. The other thing, financial relief from families. You talked about that, and I will counter this very strongly with Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who started Ujamaa, the Ujamaa. Currently, it was abandoned. If Ujamaa really worked, then it would have been continued until now. But the reason why it stopped is because it increased the dependency of people. Now people are more dependent on government school fees money. They will not wake up in the morning. They are not going to work, get that money, and that by working, they're going to produce tax. And let me give you a very good example of my mother, who has been waking up very early. When I was in primary school, I've mentioned I studied in a private school, and she had a purpose actually to go up, because then I got my school fees from there. The other point to say is the long-term economic impact, right? So for the long-term economic impact, I believe you know, if you did your research well, then by now we have a debt of 107.4 billion Kenyan shillings. If this money is still going to go to education and education alone, let me tell you something. Education is an investment. Education does not generate income for this country. So are we still going to continue channeling money to education when it cannot regenerate the money back? The other thing is, you've talked about literacy levels, and I say this and I'll repeat it for you. 82.6% of the people are already literate. They have already learned, and the government is not producing the full funding. So what more would you want to do that? 82%, and the number is still continuing every single day by day. 82% of the population is literate, so we are empowered to do what we can do. Get that from me. My summary is going to summarize what I've said. For the dependence on the government, we are very clear on that. We cannot keep on giving people, we cannot deny people a chance to work every single morning to generate tax, which, as you have said, is going to improve this nation at a large, because they are working and they are producing tax. On delayed funding, my solution to this, what about the government actually partners with non-governmental organizations? M-Pesa Foundation, Equity, Wing Supply. Then and only then will, because if the government is delaying funds, if we are going to add private schools to the bigger picture, then that means the gap is widening day by day. More funds are being delayed. And I'm not saying the government does not give funds. I'm just saying the capitations are sometimes delayed. So to counter that, I believe that the government can really work with the non-governmental organizations so that they can help and chip in wherever they can to help people. I study with people under Wings to Fly. I have classmates with very sharp minds. They study with Wings to Fly, and it has not deteriorated them. Non-governmental organizations, believe me, they will work, and they will continue to work. So instead of demanding that the government should actually fund the schools, how about we work with
with the non-governmental organizations. The other thing is on personal choices. Let me say this. When the government is involved in something, it makes sure that everything is complete and final. If the government is going to fund the private schools, then what this means is that they are going to generalize the curriculum. The curriculum is going to be the same. Why? Because there's an input they have and they're going to control the curriculum. Mind you, other people still want to do the British curriculum. So we do not want to go against the constitution that gives us the free will it gives us the right to our free will. We do not want to go against that. Therefore, the government is not supposed to fund all basic institutions, all learning basic institutions, so that people have the free will to choose what works for them and what does not work for them. And finally, on financial burden of the government, as I've said, with reference from BRI as of 23rd of May, there's a debt of 107.42. You have already seen clearly my illustration. We are at some point, if we are going to make the government pay and finance all basic education, then that means we are putting more in their plate that they can even take. Will we just have mercy? And also, if you say that it's supposed to fund all basic education institutions, then that means that you will be thinking from the present. The best way to fail in future is thinking from the present. Thank you very much.
We are going to have the affirmative summary. You have 3 minutes. And your 3 minutes start right now.
In conclusion, the societal benefits of fully funded education institution by the government for equity far outweigh the potential drawback put forth by the opposition. By providing equal opportunities for all, regardless of socio-economic background, we lay the foundation of equitable, united, and economically prosperous society. Education is not a privilege for few, but a right for all. And it is the duty of the government to ensure that every child's potential is nurtured through the fully funding of basic education institutions. Thank you.
Distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Coach 01 from Shimalatea High School, and I'm going to read you a passage entitled American Culture, the Basics. The United States is a diverse country with many customs and traditions. It is difficult to be specific about US culture because of the many regional, religious, and national differences. Here are some key values and generalities that might help you understand Americans and their culture. These generalities are not always true, but can be a good guide to understanding. Your willingness to understand and to adjust to the cultural differences will greatly contribute to your smooth and sufficient adaptation to the MVCC and the US. Making conversation. Small talk includes topics such as sports, weather, jobs, or past experiences. Most people do not talk about religion, politics, or feelings with strangers. Sex and bodily functions are not discussed. People do not usually talk about the personal lives of their conversational partners. This emotional distance does not mean people dislike you, but personal lives are discussed only with close friends and family. You should know that how are you and how's it going are greetings, not questions about your life. See you later or see you soon are ways of saying goodbye, not appointments. People in the US are curious. They will ask you a lot of questions. Some of the questions may appear ridiculous, uninformed, and basic, but try to be patient in answering them. You may be the first person from your country whom they have met, and they'll have very little understanding of your life. Most people are sincerely interested in learning about you. Loud conversations usually mean people are angry. Most conversations are moderate in volume with few gestures. Not speak too loudly and keep your hands under control. Non-verbal communication. When you have communication difficulties, you may think it's because of spoken or written language. However, many misunderstandings happen because of non-verbal communication or body language. Eye contact. During a conversation, the speaker looks briefly to the listener's eyes, briefly away and back at the listener's eyes. Touching. Touching people often makes them uncomfortable. Men are especially nervous when touched by another man. Space. You don't have to touch people to make them nervous. People expect others to be at least an arm's length away from them. If you get closer than this, people will move away from you. Not that they dislike you, but you're in their space. No matter where you are, give people plenty of space. Remember, these are generalizations. Some people will be uncomfortable if you don't touch them during a conversation. The hard part is figuring out who wants what. Some characteristics. Most people in the US believe that the ideal person is independent and self-reliant. And most people think of themselves in this way. People in the US do not think of themselves as representatives of their families, communities, or social class. You can see examples of individualism in the classroom as well. Teachers ask students to be independent and individualistic, to work alone, and to make original work. Equality. You can see equality in such common practices such as waiting in line. When you go to the bank, to the post office, or to immigration, you'll be asked to take a number and wait. Regardless of how important trivial your need is, you will be treated like everyone else. First come, first served. You can see equality in the classroom. All students should be the same in the eyes of the professors. And many professors view students as their equals. Informality. Although equality is ignored in some parts of life, it is followed closely in others. For example, people treat one another very informally, even in the presence of great differences in age or social status. This is not a lack of respect, but this is the custom in the United States. Professors may ask students to call them by their first names. Punctuality. Many people in the US are very punctual and organize their activities around schedules. Being late is rude. If you cannot be on time, tell the people who are waiting for you. For business appointments, you should always arrive a few minutes early. Materialism. Success in the United States is often measured in dollars. Many people think about money and material possessions as much as time. As a result, you may think that people ignore more important things in life, like love and friendship. This is not true. Like many people in every country, most people in the US value friendship more than wealth. Thank you.
Distinguished judges, wonderful guests, and fellow students, good afternoon. I acknowledge the DEVC for this opportunity. From the vast of Nakuru County, a star was born, and the star is code 09 from the great Moi Forces Academy Lanet with interpretive reading. American culture, the basis. The United States is a diverse country with many customs and traditions. it is difficult to be specific about US culture because of the many regional, religious, and national differences. Here are some key values and generalities that may help you understand American and their culture. These generalities are not always true, but can be a good guide to understanding. Your willingness to understand a new custom, a new culture, and to adjust to the cultural differences will greatly contribute to your smooth and sufficient adaptation to MVCC and the US. Making conversation. Small talk includes topics such as thoughts, weather, job, or past experiences. Most people do not talk about religion, politics, or feelings with strangers. Sex and bodily functions are not discussed. People do not usually talk about their personal lives with their conversation partners. This emotional distance does not mean people dislike you, but personal lives are discussed with close friends and family. You should know that how are you and how is it going are greeting, not questions about your life. See you later, see you soon are ways of saying goodbyes, not appointments. People in the US are curious. They will ask you a lot of questions. Some of the questions may appear ridiculous, uninformed, and basic, but try to be patient in answering them. You may be the first person from your country whom they have met, and they will have little understanding of your life. Most people are sincerely interested in learning about you. Loud conversation usually mean people are angry. Most conversations are moderate in volume with few gestures. Do not speak too loudly or too quietly. And keep your hands under control. Non-verbal communication. When you have communication difficulty, you may think it's because of spoken or written language. However, many misunderstandings happen because of non-verbal communication or body language. Eye contact. During a conversation, the speaker looks briefly into the listener's eyes, briefly away, and then back to the listener's eyes. Touching. Touching people often makes them uncomfortable. Men are especially nervous when touched by another man. Space. You do not have to touch people to make them nervous. People expect others to be at least an arm's length away from them. If you get closer than this, people will move away from you. They do not dislike you. You are in their space. Also, you will hear people say, "Excuse me," although they have not actually touched anyone, no matter where you are. Give people plenty of space. Remember, these are generalizations. Some people will be uncomfortable if you touch them during a conversation. The hard part is figuring out who wants what. Some characteristics. Most people in the US believe that the ideal person is independent and self-reliant. And most people think of themselves this way. People in the US do not think of themselves as representatives of their families, communities, or social class. You can see examples of individualism in the classroom as well. Teachers ask students to be independent and individualistic, to work alone, and to make original work. Equality. You can see equality in common practices and waiting in line. When you go to the bank, the post office, or to the immigration, you will be asked to take a number and wait. Regardless of how important or trivial your need is, you'll be treated like everyone else. First come, first served. You can also see equality in the classroom. All students should be the same in the eyes of professors. And many professors view students as their equals. Informality. Although equality is ignored in some parts of life, it is followed closely in others. For example, people treat one another very informally, even in the presence of great difference in age of social status. This is not lack of respect. This is the custom in the United States. Professors may ask students to call them by their names. Punctuality. Many people in the US are very punctual and organize their activities around schedules. Being late is rude. If you cannot be on time, tell the people who are waiting for you. For business appointments, you should always arrive a few minutes early. Materialism. Success in the United States is often measured in dollars. Many people think about money and material possessions as much as time. As a result, you may think that people ignore more important things in life, like love and friendship. This is not true. Like people in every country, most people in the US value friendship more than wealth. Thank you.
Well, at the very start, we have something in common. You don't know what I am going to say. And by the way, neither do I. Other than being a comedian, I'm also a spokesman. Under code 010, my name is Mohammed Amin Abdi from the Highway Secondary School. Creative writing, the short story. To be a good creative writer, you have to be a good writer. You should read intensively and extensively. You should also be in touch with what is happening around you. This helps you grasp situations, analyze them, and create stories around them. As a good creative writer, you should be open-minded and not take sides in situations. You will learn to be inspired by both negative and positive occurrences. This way, you will be able to dictate conflict and its possible resolution. Objective reasoning is the core of successful creative writing. Creative writing acquires that you develop a good command of language so that you can use it in interesting and varied ways in order to capture the imagination of the reader and communicate your message more effectively. Words must be carefully selected, ideas thoroughly screened, events condensed, and meanings clarified. The short story is one of the most popular forms of creative writing. It is usually dramatic and emphatic. It develops fairly fast and can be read at a single sitting. A short story has few characters and its language is concentrated. Its words are carefully selected. The best way to write a short story is to think of a situation, theme, or idea, allow your imagination to relax and explore the depths of its creativity. Then rewrite and reorganize whatever comes out of your first draft several times to improve on it. The short story is a good example of a narrative writing. The narrative writing can take three forms: first, second, or third person narrative. In the first person narrative, the story is told by one of the characters who is I in the story. In this narrative, the reader sees and experiences what this character does and thinks in the story. This kind of narrative is direct and involves the reader more closely in the action of the story. In the second person narrative, the writer addresses the reader directly as you, or uses a character to address the reader directly as you. Effect is to engage the reader in the story as the reader is actually there and being spoken to directly. In the third person narrative, the story is told referring to all the characters as he, she, or by their names. The story may still center on the main character, his or her thoughts and experiences. This encourages readers to identify and sympathize with this character in particular. On the other hand, the story may not be centered on any character. Therefore, the reader can see and experience what any of the characters do or think. This style is called omniscient narration, and the narrator is called the omniscient narrator. Before you start writing the story, you need to decide which narrative voice you will use. As a writer, you need to choose the setting of your story very carefully. Set your story in surroundings with which you are familiar so that you can describe them fully and enable your characters to interact confidently and convincingly. Your setting could be rural, urban, or historical. The interaction could be within a social grouping or community, like a family or a clan. Choose your language carefully to deliver your message clearly. It is advisable to make your language simple so that it is easily understood. This enables the reader to follow the action of the story without being distracted by difficult words or long sentences. Create a simple, everyday experience type of situation which captures the imagination of the reader. The following tips will help you engage the reader in your story. Go straight into the story. You do not have to give a long introduction before the action begins. Leave out the entry-page details. Avoid having too many characters by reporting what people did. Avoid irrelevant information or uninteresting encounters and get straight on with the story so that you can capture and maintain the reader's interest. Organize your story carefully with all the events linking coherently and building to a climax. Run the story in sections rather than single paragraphs with a series of actions. Characters or events leading to some excitement. Let the story use narrative technique. It can employ dialogue and description. If your story is more about characters and events, you may want to have more interaction between characters. In this respect, your story will be like a play. You will therefore use dialogue as a means of unfolding the events of your story and to develop the characters. One line of dialogue is worth a dozen adjectives and adverbs. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Fatma Rashid from Lamu Girls. I'm here to read for you creative writing, the short story. To be a good creative writer, you have to be a good reader. You should read intensively and extensively. You should also in touch with what is happening around you. This helps you grasp situations, analyze them, and create stories around them. As a good creative writer, you should be open-minded and not take sides in situations. You will learn to be inspired by both negative and positive occurrences. This way, you will be able to detect conflict and its possible resolution. Objective reasoning is the core of successful creative writing. Creative writing requires that you develop a good command of the language so that you can use it in interesting and varied ways in order to capture the imagination of the reader and communicate your message more effectively. Words must be carefully selected, ideas thoroughly screened, events condensed, and meanings clarified. The short story is one of the most popular forms of creative writing. It is usually dramatic and emphatic. It develops fairly fast and can be read at a single sitting. A short story has few characters and its language is concentrated. Its words are carefully selected. The best way to write a short story is to think of a situation, theme, or idea. Allow your imagination to relax and explore the depths of its creativity. Then rewrite and reorganize whatever comes out of your first draft several times to improve on it. The short story is a good example of narrative writing. The narrative can take three forms: first, second, or third person narrative. In the first person narrative, the story is told by one of the characters who is I in the story. In this narrative, the reader sees and experiences what this character does and thinks in the story. This kind of narrative is direct and involves the reader more closely in the action of the story. In the second person narrative, the writer addresses the reader directly as you or uses a character to address the reader directly as you. The effect is to engage the reader in the story as the reader is actually there and being spoken to directly. In the third person narrative, the story is told referring to all the characters as he or she or by their names. The story may still center on the main character, his or her thoughts and experiences. This encourages readers to identify and sympathize with this character in particular. On the other hand, the story may not be centered on any character. Therefore, the reader can see and experience what any of the characters do or think. This style is called omniscience. Omniscient narration, and the narrator is called the omniscient narrator. Before you start writing the story, you need to decide which narrative voice you will use. As a writer, you need to choose the setting of your story very carefully. Set your story in surroundings with which you are familiar so that you can describe them fully. and enable your characters to interact confidently and convincingly. Described setting could be rural, urban, or historical. The interaction could be within a social grouping or community, like the family or clan. Choose your language carefully to deliver your message clearly. It is advisable to make your language simple so that it is easily understood. This enables the reader to follow the action of the story without being distracted by difficult words or long sentences. Create a simple, everyday experience type of situation which captures the imagination of the reader. The following tips will help you engage the reader in your story. Go straight into the story. You do not have to give a long introduction before the action begins. Leave out the intricate details. Avoid having too many characters by reporting what people did. Avoid irrelevant information or uninteresting encounters and get straight on with the story so that you can capture and maintain the reader's interest. Organize your story carefully with all the events linking coherently and building to a climax. Plan the story in sections rather than single paragraphs with a series of actions, characters, or events leading to some excitement. Let the story use narrative technique. It can employ dialogue or description. If your story is more about characters than events, then you may want to have more interaction between characters. In this respect, your story will be like a play. You will therefore use dialogue as a means of unfolding the events of your story and to develop the characters. One line is dialogue is worth a dozen adjectives and adverbs. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, this has been a journey. I'm just thankful for the journey. And this is how we have come. Let's appreciate all the people who have spoken from morning. Now, because Mombasa has to leave, Mombasa ladies have to leave, we want to recognize one of us. As a result of this debate that has been, the skills that have been built in Angel, Angel, and she's an angel. Please, Angel, come quickly. He is the current champion, Mombasa. Tell us. Briefly, 1 minute, training out away with it.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. Due to the American Corner, this year I won the Rotary and Jeffrey as Best Speaker of the Year. Also at the KMF, this year 2023, I was also the Best Impromptu Speech at the class 117J.
Yes, but it's funny that we see that we are producing people. She has not been. Last week, she was in the National Principals Conference in Mombasa, and she was selected to speak to them about challenges in boarding schools, the skills she has learned from the debating for imagining voices. And she started in Form 1. That is the power of what we are doing. Thank you to my teacher. They have to run. Please go safe. In case you win, we'll give you trophies. I also want one person from that young man from Highway. Now I'm managing time. Salim. 1 second. Debate has been very fast. The impact of the project.
Hi. You guys look both one. Are you all right? No, you're all there. Currently, I can say my biggest achievement was moving from a counselor when I was in Form 2 to being the deputy chairman in the school. The skills I've learned from Legal Douglas were on how I could be an outgoing character, how I can make myself hard to the other students. I knew when being a leader, If you think you're a leader and you don't have followers, you're simply taking a walk. So, to the skills I've acquired through the Lincoln Douglas, I appreciate you on everything. Even at school, we currently have a debating club, it's in progress. We have research facilities, capacity of the principal. Yeah, basically, that's that. I've achieved nothing. So.
Thank you so much. And their principal is actually part of the team in our WhatsApp group. Alice, come and give the impact as far as you're concerned. And then finally, we have the gentleman from Wiki. I didn't prepare them because we don't really prepare you. You are public speakers right now. Yes.
Yes. Hi everyone. I'm Alice. I'm from State House Girls, and I don't really have much huge role, but I believe everyone plays their part. So DDC came to our school when I was in Form 1. I didn't really understand most of what was supposed to happen. You know, we were used to the normal debates and stuff. However, when it came along, it was something, you know, when something new comes up, even though it sounds as much of a challenge, the biggest joy that comes is when you fully understand and when you're like fully able to articulate every single thing. And for me, even though I haven't spoken today, I don't know about you this, but I've had fun along the way. And as much as it's improved, like the speaking skills from the kind books, it's improved the way you look at things, your ability to think, and how you can do research on certain things, and your interaction with various people. So the only thing that I think our school can say is just thank you, and we are open to more things.
Thank you. And the other one? And last year, their teacher was the champion. This year, we have not done that part. Maybe we'll understand why.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity. So I discovered the DEAP when I was in Form 1. Actually, I did not know anything about it because I came from private primary school where we just be debaters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, so like that. So I'm going to meet one, and then he taught me many things such as public speaking, and we went against state house where instead of the debate itself, we were beaten. But yes, we had and we come back again. So thank you. So I'll just like to thank everybody who is just in this initiative. They're just doing a really wonderful job. I mean, every student is proud. So thank you.
Wow. Wow. Things are not yet here. In as much as we are improving the confidence. And just want to say that please, we really appreciate the funding we got for this program. It's unfortunate we just didn't have adequate so that we bring Lamu in this particular time. And guys, I'm very sorry for the challenges of the internet connections and all that. It really cuts a bit of what we needed to listen to. But time is gone. However, we are still saying if in future we can continue the program. And remember last time you asked if we could do the poetry part of it, you're not going to read the impromptu. Yes, we're in the other room when you're just saying, I need to see something like that. And I'm just so happy that at least today we've seen your vision come to pass. So, all working well. If there's more funding in the future, we want to expand this. And I'm still waiting for contact from your former school in the US. Yes, so that in September, God willing, we can meet. Otherwise, we are trying to connect with the school in Tanzania, also connected to a group in the US. Today, they're debating. We wish that we could work together. And with those many remarks, may I invite you to say a word and to also guide so that next year will be much better. Welcome, Chris, the Cultural Affairs Officer. Thank you for your time. It's a Saturday.
Yes, no, well, thank you for everybody here. Thanks especially to the teachers and to everybody working with the program. It's really a great honor to be here. And I was just saying, taking me back many years to my own days as a debater. I'm trying to remember what our school code was. I think we were I was like K, or we were K or L, something like that, and I had my own number, K27, I think we were, or I was. So it's good memories for me to be back here and seeing everybody debate and speak and practice being up in public. I think it's one of the things that prepared me the best for my life as a diplomat, traveling the world and meeting new audiences and trying to explain complicated things to different people, whether that's at the visa window as to why I did or did not give somebody the visa, or maybe that's when I'm trying to convince a foreign government to choose to side with the United States on a particular issue, or whether that's being here today and talking to a group of students about my life or about the US culture or things like that. So it's really, I think, doesn't matter where you go in life or what you do, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a computer scientist, whether you're in advertising, I think the principles of public speaking are something that will carry you throughout your life. These are the skills that you'll take with you no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter where you wind up in the world. These are things that will, these are skills that will benefit you and your communities. I'm going to build on my tradition from last year and give a little bit of feedback based on some of the speaking I've seen today, and say, I think personally that everything was so, I mean, I don't want to say so much better. Maybe let me say I can see so many improvements from last year. I think everybody's a lot more comfortable up in public. I think people are a lot more comfortable with the format for the debate, even though there were some glitches with the technical side of things. I think the arguments were so much clearer from both sides this time. I think that was something that the way of thinking and the way of communicating those arguments, I think was, I mean, I can definitely see the improvements from last year. Maybe it's the topic. Maybe people enjoy the topic more. I don't know. But I can definitely see that people feel a lot more comfortable speaking in public and using these formats. I think one of the things I saw this year that I liked a lot was the change in volume. I think people were quite good about that, whether that's a function of using the microphone or not. But I think I think one of the American culture readers, I think used a very good example of loud and things like that. So I think I could see that. But just a couple of things from me as somebody who's been speaking in public for many, many years, a couple of suggestions, thoughts to consider, as well as I'm going to draw on a little bit from my time as an actor in Hollywood and give you some thoughts, techniques, things like that that you can consider working into your practice as public speakers. First, just remember, we like to say in America, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. The idea that you want to boil it down for your audience. You know, you need to keep it, I think one of the points that was raised in the creative writing piece was that you don't want too many characters, right? Because in a short story, if it starts getting very complicated, you lose your audience. So the idea of boil it down, what are you trying to say? What is your key argument? For the Lincoln Douglas debating topic today, are you trying to argue that public responsibility is greater than personal responsibility? Are you trying to argue that education is more important than healthcare? What if you're going to boil it down for your audience so that they can remember one key thing from your speech? The other thing that we like to say as we write speeches for the ambassador or for anybody is the idea that you want to tell them what you're going to tell them what you want to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Really the idea of repetition. So it's very clear. I'm going to tell you this. Now I'm telling you this. Now I'm going to recap what I've just told you. So that it's very clear, again, when people walk away from your talk, when they walk away from your presentation, do they remember it? Can they recreate your arguments? When your fellow students go home and they say, well, this student won the competition, her argument was A, B, C. If you can't go home and say that, then it makes it well, then you have to wonder how clear was the argument. So I think you'll find the more effective arguments are the ones that you can recreate later when you get home and you're telling your friends or your parents what happened today. The other thing I would say in any speaking is to remember your motivation and your intent. So why are you giving this presentation? So if you're giving a talk on American culture, are you trying to inform your audience? Are you trying to teach them something? Or are you trying to entertain your audience? You know, they can be the same thing, but they're a little bit different, right? If you're trying to entertain, you want bigger, you want funnier, you want more dramatic maybe. But if you're trying to teach, then you want to really emphasize certain words, certain concepts, so that people can take the lesson home as opposed to laughing and engaging in a different, in more of an informal way. So really think, why am I telling this story? Do I want to inform you? Do I want to warn you? Do I want to get your sympathy? What is the purpose in the motivation and the intent of your speaking? That will inform a lot of the rest of how you deliver your remarks. And I would say that remember you have a lot of tools as a public speaker. So let me give you some of my acting background. One of the ways to practice intent or to figure out what your intent is to repeat a phrase again and again and again. And you'll find that it's called the Meisner, it's part of the Meisner technique of acting. What is your motivation? And part of the way to discover that is to repeat a phrase and just to keep repeating it. And sometimes it helps to have another person with whom you're speaking, and you say, oh, I like your dress. Oh, I like your dress. 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 Are you expressing irritation? Are you expressing facetiousness? Are you expressing sincerity? And as you go through it, as you repeat it, and as someone repeats it back to you, you'll find your motivation changes. Now I'm irritated. Now I'm laughing and it's fun. Now we're mutually complimentary. Now it's, I'm actually insulting you, but I'm still saying that I like your dress. So if you practice repeating something, you'll find that there are many different ways with even the same phrase to express a very different intent or very different motivation. Another way is to really read the words. There's a technique in acting called practical aesthetic, in which the idea is the delivery, the intent, the motivation is already written into the words. So if you're reading a word like fast or slow, or the actual text talks about creeping up on somebody, moving into somebody's personal space, there are ways to communicate that because the author has already given you the motivation. So you can really look at the words on the page and really play with those. If you're talking about I'm trying to think from the American culture thing, invading somebody's space, you can creep up on them in the words. You can use your pace and tone to convey friendship or love or things like that. So really think about the words on the page and how they can inform your motivation. The other thing I'll stress again, I think, is also to remember your tone and speed can vary. And you can experiment with that by delivering your speech in a different way. Think of yourself, okay, you're giving your presentation on American culture, but think of yourself as a church preacher. And the way that somebody might give that presentation in a church setting where they're trying to inspire an entire congregation, try delivering it in a much bigger way. Or I think we had someone who said he's not a comedian. Was it the John? Yes, maybe that's another way. Is it a stand-up? Are you delivering a stand-up routine in a club? Trying to make everybody think about the different ways you can, the different settings where you could deliver a speech. And then that will help you to find the tone. But remember that you can vary your tone and your speed within a presentation. Try practicing that. Does anybody here sing? Do you take singing lessons? Anybody? There are ways, like when you read the music, right? You can see where there's a rest, where there's a stop, where the notes are all of a sudden joined. So you sing faster or you sing in a phrase. These are ways to think about your speaking as well. You also want to figure out where are your phrases, where are your rhythms. Do you want to stress something in a rhythm and then your audience feels like you're picking up the space and you're going faster and faster and you're reaching a conclusion together? So there are ways to do that with your tone and speed that can communicate to an audience, where you want them to be tense, where you want them to be with you, where you want them to stop and think. Give your audience a pause from time to time to take in the information. And that also includes your movement. If you're going to be physical in your speech, and this setting is a little bit difficult because you have a podium, you have a microphone in your hand, how can you be deliberate? But really think about your actions and your movement. And one way to think about that is to videotape yourself. I know when I speak, I tend to move my fingers like this, like jazz hands, and it looks ridiculous if I'm giving. So I have to remember to keep my fingers together and be very deliberate in how I use my hands, or else I start looking ridiculous. I distract people from a serious presentation with spirit fingers. So you really should videotape yourself and think about your movements as well. How do they enhance the tone? Do you want a robotic movement? This gives a very different feel than a very fluid movement, right? If you are nervous, you really have to be careful about rocking or moving, because then you give a very different feel to your audience, don't you? And the audience is now worried or nervous, or they don't have as much confidence in you because you don't seem to have as much confidence in yourself. They're worried maybe you have to go to the toilet, right? So really think about the motivation, not just in your tone and your speed and your intent, but also how does that communicated in your physicality? Are you standing up straight? Are you casual? Are you approaching your audience? Are you receiving from your audience? Are you emphasizing a point A, point B? Are you very deliberate? Are you very smooth? Those are all things that you can consider as you prepare your presentation. And one point from my time in Hollywood as well, when you're working with a camera, it's always good to know you can always ask the cameraman, what's my frame? So for those in Lamu, for when we're speaking here, you want to know, what's my frame? Can you see me from here up? Can you see me? Because then you have to make sure your gestures are in that frame. Otherwise, if you're making gestures down here, but the camera can't see it, then you look weird, like what's the dance called? The flossing or whatever. Anyway, that doesn't work, right? So you have to know what your frame is. So always ask the cameraman, what's my frame? So I think that's my tips and tricks for today. But one thing that I would encourage, just experiment with everything. Like I said, deliberate. Try working at home to deliver something in a very casual way where you're talking to your friends and you're delivering the remarks, and then try giving it in a very formal way, like you're at Parliament and you are delivering a speech for the world to see, and see which one feels better. See which one matches your intent more. Try being silly, when you have to talk about different things like love, or bodily function. Be exaggerated. Be like you're delivering. Maybe try thinking like you're delivering the speech to kindergartners and you're trying to entertain a bunch of 3-year-olds. So you need to be really weird in the way you present. Try different voices, try different accents. Just to see. Because these will all be tools to help you find the voice that you ultimately want. Or it also gives you tools to alter your presentations depending on your audience. If you're giving your speech, your arguments to 5-year-olds, you really need to deliver it in a different way than if you're speaking to parliamentarians. So this experimenting with these weird tones and these weird voices and different speeds, different body language will all help you to find your voice and to be able to adapt your voice to your audience in order to deliver the message and with the intent that you have and to get the results that you want from your public speaking. So those would be my tips and tricks for this year. I will be gone next year. Hopefully my successor will be able to do this again, and the man who is replacing me will also have some different ideas for you and a different perspective. But thank you again for letting me join you. It's really great to see all of the progress that everybody has made, to see some familiar faces for our second year in a row here, and to welcome everybody back to our American Spaces. We're always glad to have you. So thank you very much. And thank you very much to Judith and the entire team for organizing another successful year. So let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Before you go to the seats, we always feel that you have a memory. And it was when I. Oh.
It's all connected.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I do use my mug from last year.
Oh.
Every day, well, not every day, it's in rotation. But once every 5 days. I have 5 mugs in the office and I use it once every 5 days.
Oh,
so I think about you throughout the year. It's the same message as last year's mug, to do what you love. Yeah.
Do what you love. Yours is to live, dream, work, imagine, love, and love. And thanks for having this group.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for enjoying your time. I think, and for supporting each other. That's really important when you're doing public speaking, right?
Yes, it is. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Because it's not public speaking without an audience. Right.
Without an audience, it would be crazy. And we also want to appreciate one more person, so that every time he drinks, he drinks water, he will remember us more than. Someone is taking us now.
Someone taking us now.
Oh, yeah, it's being recorded. Also, you can take out. You can remove it. Yeah, there's no secret in public speaking. There's no secret.
Wow. I think this is. Oh yes, same. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes. So do what makes you happy, as you love, live, and love.
Thank you so much. Where's Chris?
When I'm done, I believe the delegates will be starting to come and give us the verdict so that we can get out of here. There's another group coming in.
Oh, just 15.
Are we smiling?
Thank you. If you stand in front of us, actually. Oh, you got to stand here.
You almost do. So, okay.
No, yeah.
I'd like somebody to present something to somebody else. Oh, all the participants, all those who participated today, including Lamu, you can stand wherever you are. Please, let's have you there.
It's a story.
Okay.
Okay. Why are we here? Oh, we're taking photos.
Yeah, I think you can do that with it. Thanks to you and more than we have something. It's.
Just a moment. Trying to. Hakuna card. Umetoa card. Kwa kamera.
I think they're all mediums, I think. Because the way we open the boxes. I start with one end and one end. Mine's still there, yes. I don't know, we have people around the red and the blue, we have to fight among yourselves. Negotiations. Yes, thanks, Morgan, for preparing everything. Let's bring it together. Okay, and I said, no one's Here's patterns forming here. I'm so afraid. Then let's have the coaches. Coaches, please come. Thanks, coaches. I don't have any of them like that. I take it all the time away. Like I've taken them off and I've been taking them off. So take that one. Are we using this? We need 2 rows in order for everybody. So, switch a little bit.
Victoria. You're not the only.
I believe you see the hotness. You debaters, speaker, let's have a question, you know, so give them. The actual speaker of the city. Yeah. We're running out of meetings. These are like. I don't know that we have but we ran out of some of our swag items that are at home at the end of the. And
I don't have to take you into this. No, I haven't. This is our email.
nice. Okay, but I might be running out of. I'm thinking out for that. Then now we have some mugs. No, I don't know which is more useful to it. Something that holds caffeine or something that you could write in. I think caffeine's equally important. Yeah. We have more back. Well, okay. Okay, so and then we have some okay, these are the good ones. Yeah, these are the better. So, anyway, they're actually quite useful. And they have a little. Pardon? Well, I always, when I come downtown, I always double bag. I have a bag inside a bag. So if they cut the one bag, there's another bag, and hopefully they'll be like, what? Oh, and when they're surprised, I have time to get away. Does anybody else want to like, yeah, it is opening little bags, at least they're the bag. These are the nice ones. What are we doing? Should we switch? Yeah. Kind of be cool. Sounds like switch it a little bit, I guess. Some can come. The one thing about being a foreigner is that I'm we can switch again, or someone needs, should we pull up on chairs in the front, Austin? Yeah. That's okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
Hopefully results are coming in after.
Yeah, okay.
So
The judges did get anything, so you have to.
Thank you very much, the organizers. We judges, as much as we are trying to judge, we also enjoy. Really, so I'm here to just make general and few comments. Other comments will be coming from mostly your coaches. So the comments I'm making are generally from judges. We will be giving detailed comments on each presenter, or rather category for the schools. But on general, I want to say that you all did well. Probably those who attended from the beginning, you enjoyed some of the conversations we were having, and we really appreciate your efforts and the energy you put in to prepare for this specific competition. Again, I want to say congratulations to everyone for those who participated, even the coaches for training the students to be able to do this. I remember during my time, only prefects had the capacity to talk to people because we had the confidence. No one else will do that. So, but to see all of you young generation, I'm really impressed, and we really appreciate your efforts. So, we only have few comments. Trust me, that's how much show that you've been working hard and you've done the best. Very few comments. One is I'm addressing this specifically for those people who embrace technology. We always say that you're making your presentation, the eye of the camera is, the lens is your audience. So you should look at the audience. That is a general comment that please remember to use that technology is here with us. Anytime you get a chance, please do that. The other comment is coming in at perfect reading. Always remember this, that we are testing the ability for you to read while you're engaging the audience. Right? We've seen even great speakers, Barack Obama mentioned it. They either have the teleprompter or they have a speech, but they have to talk to the audience. So we didn't ask you to come and read the speech that we gave you. You have to internalize it
and personalize it. That's why we give you prior to the presentation. So let's work hard on that. Let's do more research. You can seek guidance from your coaches and they will help you. You can as well as ask us or ask the coordinators, have great speakers, our guests. They can always help us if we need any assistance. The last one is let's improve. Remember, we shared enough scripts and books on how to improve your reading and basically how you can make your presentation or rather speak. Let's embrace using aspects that influence the audience using things like exposition, description, narration, suggestion, persuasion. We need to see more of these in your speech, whether it's a 3-minute speech, you should learn how to do that. And the best thing I always tell people is practice makes improvement. Don't stop. Thank you. I want to welcome a fellow judge to present the result. Thank you. Welcome. Every time I keep forgetting that. I don't know why.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is the moment we have all been waiting for, and I'm here to read the results. And I'll go straight to the point with the first category we had, that is the Lincoln-Douglas debate. So the criteria that we were using to judge, we were looking at organization and clarity, mastery of the topic, distinctiveness and precision. We were also looking at how you use argumentation. We were looking at, do you really understand the meaning of cross-examination and rebutting? And cross-examination, if a question is asked, how are you responding to it? So those are some of the things we were looking at. We were looking also at your style of presentation, your creativity. So those are some of the key things that we were looking at awarding the Lincoln-Douglas debate. And to just a correction, when you're using your style of presentation in the Lincoln-Douglas debate, please, you're the only one who is allowed to be here. So I use an example of code 012, who got help from some friends while demonstrating. That is not allowed. That is a correction I had to make. You make the presentation your own self. They shouldn't be other people around. So with that correction, let me just move direct to the results. So in the Lincoln-Douglas debate, we have code 02, that was Lamu girls, and she scored 12 points. Kindly let's give my Then we have code 012, that is, sorry, code 013, Mamangina girls. She scored 11 points. Kindly give her a minute, please. And then we have code 012, settled girls. Settled girls scored 13 points. Then we have the one who took it on top over there. Code 03, Karima girl.
I think we need for 03 for
012
02.
and 02. 03 is in Lamu. So kindly count points there from gifts for you. So yeah, we have code 03 is position 1, and then we have code 012, position 2, and then we have code 02 is in Lamu, but she is position 3. Can you clap for her? So please will be issued in the middle. She's the last one.
Were you already here last year? No, remind me. From last year, but anyway, also from Mount Nineteen already, right? So,
Okay. Oh.
And then we have the winner from Karima Girls. Can you bring
Yes, so. Sticking with it and came back again. I kind of probably would don't photos, but then you. Go up or down, the opening needs to be shorter, yeah, or. Anyway. It's my time in Hollywood.
Okay, we have for the is
Oh. Okay. These are nice. We'll do this again then.
Yvette, play our camera so that we see the announce.
Lamu corner hiking, turn on your camera and call 02, who is the second runners up to be on the camera. You want to see her?
There. Let's appreciate it.
Let's appreciate Lamu corner for 02. And I think we should have on the camera the one who did the conduct last debates. We want to appreciate you. The one who did the conduct last debates. Yes, yes. The one can you appreciate her? Your medal is there, yeah.
Your medal is here.
Your medal is here. Your medal is here. I hope you can see. Congratulations. Appreciate her once again. So that was it for the Lingua that yes. Next, next we move to the poems, the category of poetry. And in this one it was the tough one, right? But you all did well. You are good, and the criteria we used, we were looking at accuracy, we were looking at voice projection, the power of your voice. We were looking at tone. So we had the poems earlier, we wanted to see the factors. We're also looking at attitude. You can mute for a while. And then we were also looking at facial expressions. You know, poetry is performance, right? So we're also looking at facial expression, gestures. We were looking at your movements, your pitch, your poses. So those are some of the criteria we use when judging you. And I'll move on to the results. How many are ready to hear it? You're ready? Yeah. So in the results, we had the following codes participating. And need a little bit German one. The code. No, I need to clarify something. Okay, thank you. I just needed to clarify. So we had for code 08, code 015, code 07, and then code 19. Yeah, the other code. But let me just say this. Yeah, and code 05. So we have code 08, who scored 25 points. They were out in 40. Can you fill up code 08? And then we have our second runners up, code 015, who scored 28 points. Second runners up can be coming, code 015, 28 points, please come over here. Kindly clap for, I want to see. You come over. And then we also have code 07. What is code 015? Oh, she's from. Okay. Okay. Yeah, the second runners up. Then for our first runners up, code 07, 29 points. 29 points. First runners up for 07, 29 points. You can be coming on the stage. Kindly appreciate her even if she can't. And now to our standing poets. Yes. Code 05. Code 05. Please appreciate her. She's 34 points. So for 05, 34 points, she's the winner from Lamu Girls. I think her name is Dorcas Ombui. Congratulations. Okay, Lamu Corner, please let me have her on the camera as we appreciate her. Yes, can we even appreciate her? Her performance on poetry was yeah, she deserves it, right? So that is it on poetry. We have our winner from Lamu. And now we move to the passages. Wait, we move to the impromptu speeches. Impromptu speeches. So in impromptu speeches, we were looking at the following. This was our criteria for judging. Distinctiveness and precision. We had mastery of the topic. We were looking at eye contact. We were looking at your poise. We were looking at also the power in your voice, that is voice charm. We were looking at time management also. And we were looking at how well were you involving the audience. And so we had code 011, code 016, code 04, and code 014 participating in this category. And so I will begin with code 011. Are you ready for the results? You're ready? So we have code 011, Lamu boys, and it's code 35. It is out of 52. Can you give them a We move on to the second runners up. Second runners up, we have code 016. Code 016, we're here. Kindly come to the point, but second runners up in the impromptu speeches. And then we have code, that's called 016. Appreciate her once again. We also have code 04. 04 is Mamandina, the given. First one is up, the left, but appreciate her. Then, Mamandina, yeah. Now we have that category. Are you ready? So we have code 014. Code 014, the winner is better 44 points. I don't know appreciate her once again.
Very valuable skill, right?
Now we move to our last category. Our last category was passage reading, and we had the following codes: 01, 09, 010, and 06. So I move on to the criteria we were using passage reading. We were looking at eye contact, we were looking at your movements, we were looking at voice charm, we were also looking at distinctiveness and precision, we were looking at the use of pause, we were looking at intonation, your appearance as well. We were also looking at involving of the audience. And lastly, we were looking at the poise. And so for the results that we have in this category, we had code 06, code 06 from, they're in the Lamu corner. They had a 25, it was out of 36. Kindly see them around the world. Then we have the second runners up, code 09. Code 09, second runners up, code 09. Appreciate her once again. That was our second runners up in this category. And then we were also having code 010. Code 010. Our first runners up. Code 010. Congratulations. Code 010. Is our first runners up in the passage category. Then lastly, we have code 01. Code 01. So with that, we now want to go in a one day. So please. Always. I think, right? Yeah, the Australian. Nice to share them. That's right. So now we want to move to award the trophies. You can see them glowing and shining over there, right? Yeah. Want to take them home. And really appreciate the simple gift. And I will start with the first category that we started with, that is the Lincoln Douglas Debate Trophy. And this trophy goes to, should I say, you're waiting. So this trophy goes to Karima Girls High School. The Lincoln Douglas Trophy. Karima Girls, please, with your winner who won in the Lincoln Douglas. Kindly come. I think some students, it is your win. So we appreciate them once again.
You want to join me? Yeah.
Some students need the photo.
The students. Yeah.
We go on to our second category, which was poetry. Poetry, and the ones taking the poetry trophy home is Lamu girls. They are in the photo. Lamu girls, you can move closer to the camera. You can see your trophy. It will be delivered. Lamu girls, kindly, we want to see you. We want to see you. This is your trophy. We want to see you, Lamu girls. The one even who won the poetry, Lamu girls want to see you. Their coach appreciates them. So that was Lamu girls, that's their trophy, best in poetry. And then we move to the other category of the impromptu. The next category is the impromptu speeches. So in this category, we have let me call this school the way they call themselves. We have the prestigious state house girls. Appreciate them. Appreciate them when you come for their trophy prestigious category. Appreciate them. So your coaches, appreciate them once again. So my coffee, appreciate them. The prestigious little girl.
Okay.
Appreciate them as they sit down. Appreciate them.